You are ready to go put an offer on a house because you have a pre-approval letter. At Be My Neighbor Mortgage, we've worked with you, or if you've worked with another lender, you've gone through all the documentation, income, credit, job history, all of it. You got all your questions answered. You got a loan estimate in hand. You know how much it's going to cost you to get this house, and now you're ready to go put an offer. So let's talk about if it's better for you to put $300,000 on an offer, roundabout numbers, to put your down payment on it, and to maybe even ask for the seller to come down in price, or is it better to have the seller pay your closing costs by offering them maybe a little bit more? Let's look at the math and figure this out together. Follow along with me here, because here's the idea. You're gonna go put an offer on a home, a purchase price of $300,000, and you're gonna use an FHA loan. You're gonna have to put down 3.5%, which would come out to a loan amount of $289,500. All right. Now, when you do that, you're now gonna finance $289,500. Now, if I run the numbers just generally off of a 6% interest rate, a 6.25 APR, you're gonna come in with a principal and interest payment with the FHA PMI. So I'm not guessing on taxes and insurance. We're just gonna leave those off for now, because really the principal and interest is where this miracle math starts to happen. So the PMI plus principal and interest, so that's private mortgage insurance, which an FHA loan requires, plus principal and interest, you're gonna come into a payment roughly about $1,856, okay? So at $1,856 a month, that's gonna be your payment on $289,500 for a purchase price of $300,000. Now your closing costs with an FHA loan are gonna be approximately 4%. Now this purchase price in most areas, again, not fully understanding what your tax and insurance are, let's just say 4% of the purchase price. So 4% of $300,000. Just for round numbers, that makes it $12,000. So you're gonna come in with $12,000 in closing costs. That is your appraisal fee, that is your taxes, your insurance prepaid, that's your title, your escrow attorney, your closing attorney, right? That's your recording fees. Those are your prepaid taxes, those are your postpaid tax, all of it, your prepaid interest. It just kind of lump sums it in there at $12,000. Now at $12,000, that is not chump change. And if you've saved up money, you've had to save up both $10,500 for your down payment and now $12,000 for your closing costs. You're coming out of pocket at $22,500. Most of us have a hard time saving that up. That is going to take some time. Now the FHA loan's awesome, and many loans will allow this. Maybe a family member is gifting you that down payment. That's going to help, but it's not going to solve it. You're still looking at $12,000 in closing costs. If grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, mom, dad, brother, sister said, hey, here's money to help you with your down payment, and they gift you $10,000. That's awesome, but it doesn't actually cover the gap. We've got a $12,000 bill here, and maybe you saved up the money, but here's where I want to show you the difference. Now let's go back at 6%, $289,000. Our principal and interest payment with PMI is $1,856. What if you went to the seller and said, hey, seller, I'd like you to pay my closing costs of $12,000. And at $300,000, they're like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do that today. And maybe they're like, it's $300,000, you pay your own closing costs and we'll call this good. But what if you instead said, you know what, we're gonna bump the purchase price to $310,000. What does that do to your payment and your cash on hand? So if we go to $310,000, because we're gonna ask the seller to give us $12,000 for closing costs, or 4%, which is well within the FHA guideline of 6% seller concessions. At 4%, $12,000, you upped the purchase price by $10,000 to maintain most of that cash in your hand. What did that do to your payment? At $300,000 purchase price, you're looking at $1,856 principal and interest. At $310,000, you're looking at $1,918 principal and interest payment. That's a grand total difference of $62 a month. Where do we find the calculation that says, you know what, paying $62 more a month is going to be better for us financially than paying all $12,000 out of our own pocket for the down payment? Here's where that math kind of starts to math. If you take the $12,000 and divide it by the difference in the payments, right, $62 a month, here's what happens, and here's where we call a recapture point. So I take $12,000, I divide it by 62, that's how much I'm saving every month, and that gives me a grand total of $193.5. That means it would take me 193 months saving that $62 aside. So let's say I paid the $12,000 out of my pocket, I took the lower loan amount, and I took that difference of savings of $62 a month, and I said, okay, I'm gonna set that in a savings account. In 193 months, you are going to save that money back. 193 months out of a 360-month mortgage. That is a long time. So, what if you took the $12,000 and maintained it? Hold on to it. Ask the seller to pay for it. Your payment went up by $62 a month, but guess what? Most American mortgages are only held from anywhere from 7 to 10 years, especially with today's interest rates. It's very cheap money to borrow against that $12,000, which is effectively what you're doing. You raise the price of the house. So yes, you're borrowing a little bit more, your payment's $62 a month, but you're sitting on a nest egg of $12,000. Why would we recommend that? It's not to have a higher loan amount. It's actually because $12,000 in your pocket after you buy a home is worth more to your security and longevity. Again, look at the $12,000 and say that $12,000, if everything fell out, the bottom fell out of everything, I'm going to divide that by my higher mortgage payment, or 1918. You've got roughly a little over 6 months in reserves to pay your mortgage payment. If something, God forbid, happens, such as you lost your job, got laid off, got injured, something like that, you're sitting on $12,000. What if you move in and the water heater goes out and you don't have the home warranty? That happens too. I moved in my first home and actually the sewer line backed up within the first 4 weeks. I didn't know any of this. I just had happened to save a little bit of money and hold on to it when I bought my house. And what happened? Well, I was able to actually maintain and replace that sewer line. You know, it still was tough, but I was super glad I had that money instead of dumping it all into the house, which once you take a liquid asset like cash and put it into a solid investment asset like real estate, it's not cheap to get it back out. That's why when people come to me and say, hey, I want to buy this house, but I'm running a little light on cash, when you run the math this way and say, look, borrowing $10,000 into the purchase price from the seller's concession, the seller's gift, is actually a pretty inexpensive way to maintain a really good property and to buy the property while having the seller or financing some of those closing costs in the negotiation. This isn't really a unique phenomenon. It is just math. It's how we can manage our debt and to use debt to your advantage. Most of us cannot maintain a savings plan for 193 months. We are usually able to do it for a couple years, 24 months, 36 months, but life happens. Personally, I'd rather have cash assets maintained already in the bank account when life happens. It's easier to replace with that $12,000 a new water heater for $500, $600, $1,000 and save back that $62 against that. It's easier to take smaller chunks out of that nest egg. It's easier to take that nest egg and just know with confidence you can afford the home you are buying. These are little tips and tricks. This is what I coach and consult all the time, especially to new home buyers, first-time home buyers, when they're wondering, how in the world do I pay the closing costs and buy the house and have the down payment with or without family help? We can do it. Here's the other way you do it. When you work with a real estate agency like Realpha, partner with Be My Neighbor Mortgage, not only are we able to help you with the closing cost negotiation like this, we're able to actually wipe out the realtor buyer transaction fees. When you go get represented by a realtor, by a real estate professional as your buying representative, you're going to pay them 1%, 2%, 3% of that transaction as their fee. At Realpha, they'll even go to the table on your behalf and they will say this, sir, ma'am, seller, we're not going to ask you to cover the buyer broker fee because we don't have one. We are going to ask you to instead cover the buyer's closing costs with seller concessions. More often than not, that makes a very strong, very aggressive offer, and it's usually accepted. Working with Be My Neighbor Mortgage and Realpha Real Estate, this is going to help you tremendously afford the house that you're looking to buy for your future, your investment, and your comfort. If we can be of any more help, you know how to reach us. Check out more of the videos below, and we'll talk to you soon.